Liam, what is the secret to effective communication within a relationship?
That's a really good question as well. In fact, I've got a whole chapter about that in my book, Marriage Uncounseling. But here's the thing about communication. And, it doesn't exactly puzzle me, but it makes me feel a bit sad that people make communication so complicated. Because one of the clues to know how to create effective communication in a relationship, as in any other aspect of your relationship, whether it's intimacy, connection, joy and happiness, is to think back to the early days and say, what was going on then when the communication was really good? That's not happening now. And the fundamental thing about communication, you don't need to learn a technique. You don't need to learn about somebody's, brain psychology or beliefs or values or how they, whatever it is. You don't need to learn any of that sort of stuff because you didn't know any of that sort of stuff when you first got together in the relationship, but when things were going really well. All you need to do, if you want to communicate well, is to make yourself someone that they want to communicate with. It's as simple as that. So in other words, you make yourself attractive. You make yourself the sort of person that they can trust, that they can feel good around. Now, and what that really means, sometimes people say to me, my wife's having, or I'm having problems in my marriage, but I can't talk to my wife about it. Yeah. Now, why can't you talk to your wife about it? Because she'd get really upset. So that's why the communication isn't there. And it's not that he doesn't want to communicate. It's just he doesn't feel safe communicating because of what her reaction would be. And why would she get upset? Because she's afraid. She's afraid that if he says something that she doesn't agree with, then it's going to be some terrible thing, the end of their marriage, or whatever it is. So again, this comes back to your fear. When you have no fear that what you say to the other person is going to hurt you, in other words, that they're going to get upset, and what they might say to you is not going to upset you either, then you both can say anything. And that's where effective communication comes in. That's what effective communication is. It's the ability to say anything that you feel and have the other person understand it. And they will only understand it if they want to understand it. So, for example, you might say to your wife, husband, I'm really not happy in our relationship, and I'm thinking about going off with somebody else. Now, if their reaction was, now what I'm hearing is you're not happy in the relationship and you're thinking of going with someone else, I understand that. That if that's what you want to do, well, maybe we need to talk it through and what it is. Then they're going to be open and honest, and the other person might say, so tell me a bit more about what you're not happy about in our relationship and what's not working. Okay, and they'll tell you, okay, that makes sense. So then that's when effective communication happens. And if somebody doesn't understand, they say, tell me a bit more. What do you mean by that? I really want to know what you mean. I don't quite understand. Tell me in different ways. How can I understand what you're saying? Isn't that great communication? Whereas if they were to say something like, I want to leave, and the other person went, oh, you can't. Are you
cheating on me? What's wrong with you?
I'll be so upset. I can't live without you. I love you. And you think that person is going to want to communicate? No, they're not, because they're saying that person isn't interested in what I'm actually saying or how I feel. They're just worried about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And why are they worried about themselves? Because they have this fear around the relationship. So the key, if you want to be a good communicator and you want your spouse to communicate well with you, say, how can I be the sort of person that they want to communicate with? How can I be a person that's not going to be upset with them when they tell me how they feel? Or do something that I don't agree with? Because here's the thing, if they say something that you don't like, or they do something you don't like, it's actually not about them. It's about you. Why don't you like it? Why do you allow them to do or say what they want to do? That's what if you really respect the other person, you will allow them to say or do what they want to do. So it's as simple as that. So in other words, communication isn't working on some technique to get them to manipulate the other person or get them to do or think something you want them to do. It's about going within yourself and saying, what fears can I get rid of about my relationship that would make me worry about what might or might not be communicated between us?